The black SUV's engine roared through the concrete parking garage like a beast unleashed. Simone Turner looked up from her phone, her finger frozen over the send button on an email, and in that crystallized moment of absolute horror, she saw her husband's face through the windshield. Derek wasn't slowing down. His hands gripped the steering wheel with white-knuckled intensity, his jaw set in grim determination, his eyes locked directly on her with a coldness she had never seen in 12 years of marriage. She had exactly 2 seconds to understand that this was intentional. 2 seconds to recognize that the man she had loved, trusted, built a life with, was accelerating directly toward her. 2 seconds to try to move, but her body was trapped between her car and the concrete pillar behind her. The impact was devastating. Metal crunched. Her body crumpled. Pain exploded through every nerve ending as the SUV's front bumper caught her across the hips and thighs, lifting her off her feet and slamming her into the pillar. She heard her own bones snap, felt her ribs crack like dry kindling, tasted blood as her head whipped back against unforgiving concrete. Her phone shattered on the garage floor, its screen going dark just as her vision began to tunnel. The SUV reversed. Through her dimming consciousness, Simone saw Derek put the vehicle in park, saw him exit with his phone already in hand, heard him screaming her name with what sounded like genuine anguish. But she had seen his face before impact. She knew what was real. Oh my God. Simone. Someone help. My wife. She just stepped out between the cars and I didn't see her. I didn't see her. His performance was Oscar-worthy. His voice cracked with emotion. His hands shook as he called 911. When other people rushed over from the elevator bay, Derek was on his knees beside her, careful not to move her, tears streaming down his face, his whole body trembling. She was texting, she wasn't looking, I was pulling through to the exit, I swear I didn't see her until it was too late. Baby, please stay with me. Help is coming. Stay with me, Simone. Simone tried to speak, tried to tell the gathering crowd the truth, but her lungs wouldn't inflate properly. Blood filled her mouth. Her vision kept fading in and out. She saw concerned faces hovering above her, heard sirens approaching from far away, felt Derek's hand carefully avoiding her broken body while maintaining the appearance of a distraught husband. Don't move her, someone instructed. Paramedics are almost here. Is she breathing? A woman asked urgently. Barely, another voice confirmed. This looks bad. Really bad. Derek sobbed convincingly. We've been married 12 years. 12 years. We were supposed to have dinner tonight at Marcello's. Our anniversary is next month. Baby, please, you have to hold on. Through the chaos, Simone's mind clung to one clear thought. He tried to kill me. This wasn't an accident. She had seen his face, seen the calculation, seen him accelerate when he should have braked. But why? Why would Derek want her dead? The paramedics arrived with their equipment and urgent voices. They cut away her clothing, placed a cervical collar around her neck, started IVs in both arms. The pain was unbearable as they shifted her onto a backboard, but she couldn't scream because her lungs wouldn't work right. She heard medical terminology flowing over her like a foreign language: possible internal bleeding, pelvic fracture, multiple rib fractures, head trauma, blood pressure dropping, patient unresponsive to verbal stimuli. Sir, you'll need to follow in your own vehicle, a paramedic told Derek firmly. We need space to work. That's my wife. Derek protested. I should be with her. You can meet us at County General. We need to move now. As they loaded Simone into the ambulance, she caught one more glimpse of Derek. He stood beside his black SUV, his face buried in his hands, shoulders shaking. But when he lifted his head to watch the ambulance doors close, Simone saw something that confirmed her terrible understanding. For just a fraction of a second, before he remembered to maintain his mask of devastation, Derek's face was completely blank. No emotion. No fear. No grief. Just cold calculation. The ambulance lurched into motion, sirens screaming. The paramedics worked frantically over her broken body. One kept talking to her, trying to keep her conscious. Simone, can you hear me? Squeeze my hand if you can hear me. That's good. Stay with us. We're almost there. You're going to be okay. Just keep fighting. But Simone wasn't sure she wanted to fight. The pain was overwhelming. The betrayal was worse. Her own husband had tried to murder her in a parking garage, then played the devastated spouse while she lay dying. What kind of monster had she been sharing her life with? What had she missed? How long had he been planning this? The ambulance took a sharp turn and pain ripped through her body so intense that her vision went white. When it cleared, the edges were going dark. She heard the machines beeping faster, heard urgent voices, felt hands pressing on her chest and abdomen. We're losing her. Pressure's dropping. She's bleeding internally. Get trauma on standby. 2 minutes out. Simone's last conscious thought before everything went black was that Derek would pay for this. If she survived, she would make sure everyone knew what he had done. She would take everything from him the way he tried to take her life. She would destroy him. If she survived. The darkness swallowed her whole. The first thing Simone became aware of was pain. Not the sharp, explosive agony of the impact, but a deep, grinding ache that permeated every inch of her body. The second thing was the steady beep of machines. The third was a hand holding hers, small, warm, familiar. Natalie? Her voice was barely a whisper, her throat raw from the breathing tube that had only been removed hours earlier. Oh, thank God. Her best friend's face appeared above her, tears streaming down her cheeks. Simone, you're awake. You're really awake. I'll get the doctor. Wait. Simone's fingers tightened weakly around Natalie's hand. Derek. Where's Derek? Something flickered across Natalie's face, something complicated that Simone couldn't quite read through the fog of medication. He's been here every day. He just went to get coffee. Should I call him? No. The word came out sharper than Simone intended. Not yet. How long? 3 days. You've been unconscious for 3 days. Simone, you almost died. You coded twice in surgery. They had to remove your spleen and repair internal bleeding. Your pelvis is fractured in 2 places, you have 4 broken ribs, a concussion and significant bruising to your spine. The doctor said it's a miracle you survived. 3 days. Simone closed her eyes, trying to piece together fragmented memories. The parking garage. The SUV. Derek's face through the windshield, cold and determined. The impact. The pain. Derek's performance for the witnesses. The accident, Simone said carefully, watching Natalie's reaction. What happened? Natalie's expression grew troubled. Derek said you stepped out between parked cars while texting and he didn't see you in time. The police took his statement at the hospital. They ruled it an accident, but... She hesitated. But what? Simone, I know this is going to sound crazy and maybe I'm just being paranoid because I'm scared, but something feels wrong. The way Derek describes it doesn't match the injuries. If you were hit at parking garage speed like 5 or 10 miles per hour, you shouldn't have been hurt this badly. And there's something about the way he talks about it that just feels rehearsed. Simone's heart rate picked up, making the monitors beep faster. A nurse appeared in the doorway, checking the machines with a practiced eye. Welcome back, Mrs. Turner, she said with a kind smile. How are you feeling? Like I got hit by a car, Simone said dryly. The nurse's smile faded slightly. I'll get Dr. Patterson. Don't try to move yet. You have a long recovery ahead of you. After the nurse left, Simone looked at Natalie carefully. I need you to listen to me and I need you not to react when Derek comes back. Can you do that? Natalie nodded slowly, her eyes widening. It wasn't an accident. Derek hit me on purpose. I saw his face. He accelerated toward me. He tried to kill me. The color drained from Natalie's face. Simone, I know how it sounds, but I know what I saw. I need you to trust me. I need you to not let on that I remember anything. When Derek comes back, I'm going to pretend my memory is foggy. I need time to figure out why he did this. We should tell the police right now. And say what? That I remember seeing his face, but there were other witnesses who saw him break too late? It'll be my word against his, and I'm the one on pain medication with head trauma. We need proof. Before Natalie could respond, Derek appeared in the doorway carrying 2 coffee cups. His face transformed instantly into an expression of overwhelming relief and joy. Simone, baby, you're awake. He rushed to her bedside, setting down the coffee and reaching for her other hand. I've been so worried. I thought I'd lost you. Simone forced herself not to flinch away from his touch. Up close, she could see the dark circles under his eyes, the stubble on his jaw, the rumpled appearance of his clothes. He looked like a man who had been keeping vigil at his wife's bedside for 3 days. If she hadn't seen his face before impact, she would have believed the performance completely. Derek. She let her voice sound weak and confused. What happened? I can't remember clearly. Relief flooded his features. You stepped out into the driving lane while looking at your phone. I was pulling through to exit and I didn't see you until it was too late. God, Simone, I'm so sorry. I've replayed it in my mind 1,000 times. If I had been going slower, if I had been paying more attention, if I had. It wasn't your fault, she interrupted, watching his face carefully. It was an accident. Something flickered in his eyes. Satisfaction? Relief? It was gone before she could identify it with certainty. The police said the same thing, Derek said. But I still feel responsible. You're my wife. I should have seen you. I should have protected you. Dr. Patterson entered then, a tall woman in her 50s with gray hair and sharp eyes. Mrs. Turner, good to see you conscious. I'm Dr. Patterson, head of trauma. You've been through quite an ordeal. Let's talk about your injuries and recovery. The doctor explained everything in clinical detail. The surgery to stop internal bleeding. The broken bones that would take months to heal. The physical therapy she would need. The possibility of chronic pain. The concussion that could cause memory problems and cognitive difficulties for weeks. Memory problems? Derek asked, his voice carefully concerned. Will she remember the accident? Dr. Patterson looked at Simone thoughtfully. Traumatic brain injuries often result in memory loss around the time of injury. Mrs. Turner, do you remember the accident clearly? It's all fuzzy, Simone lied smoothly. I remember being in the parking garage and then waking up here. She saw Derek's shoulders relax slightly. Over the next hour, various hospital staff came and went. Derek maintained his attentive husband routine perfectly, adjusting her pillows, holding her water cup, asking questions about her care. Natalie watched it all with barely concealed suspicion in her eyes. Finally, a Detective Morrison arrived, a weathered man in his 50s with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. He asked Simone to recount what she remembered. I was in the parking garage, Simone said slowly. I had my phone out. Then I woke up here. Everything in between is blank. Detective Morrison made notes. No memory of the impact itself? No. He nodded, studying her face carefully. Simone had the distinct impression he was trying to determine if she was lying. Well, we've reviewed the security footage from the garage, although unfortunately the camera covering your parking area malfunctioned. We do have footage of Mr. Turner's vehicle entering and exiting the garage at the times he reported. We also have statements from 3 witnesses who heard the impact and came running. All accounts are consistent: an unfortunate accident, poor visibility between the concrete pillars, a distracted pedestrian and a driver who couldn't brake in time. That's it then? Natalie asked sharply. Case closed. Detective Morrison looked at her. Unless Mrs. Turner remembers something different that might change the facts. Do you remember something different, Mrs. Turner? This was Simone's chance. She could tell him the truth right now, could accuse Derek, could start an investigation. But something held her back. The missing security footage. The consistent witness statements. Derek's careful positioning of himself as the devastated husband. She needed more than her word against his. No, she said finally. I don't remember anything different. The detective handed her his card anyway. If your memory returns, call me. Even small details can be important. After he left, Derek let out a breath. I'm glad that's over. The last thing you need is police statements and investigations while you're trying to recover. Yeah, Simone agreed quietly, watching her husband. The last thing I need. 6 months before the parking garage, Simone Turner stood in the conference room of Turner Marketing Solutions, looking out at her team of 25 employees, feeling like the luckiest woman alive. The company she had built from nothing had just secured its biggest contract yet, a 3-year digital marketing partnership with a national retail chain worth $2 million. This is huge for us, she told her team, unable to keep the smile off her face. This is what we've been working toward for 10 years. Every late night, every difficult client, every pivot and adaptation has led to this moment. I couldn't have done this without each one of you. The room erupted in applause. Derek, standing beside her as the company's chief operating officer, pulled her into a hug that seemed genuine and warm. My amazing wife, he said loud enough for everyone to hear. The smartest businesswoman I know. Back then, Simone had felt nothing but love and pride. She and Derek had met 13 years ago at a marketing conference. He had been working for a corporate firm, she had been freelancing and dreaming of building something bigger. Their connection was instant. He believed in her vision. When she started Turner Marketing from their apartment, he had encouraged her to take his last name even though it wasn't his company. We're a team, he had said. What's mine is yours and what's yours is mine. For years it had felt true. Derek had quit his corporate job to join Turner Marketing when the company reached 10 employees. Simone focused on strategy, creativity, and client relationships while Derek handled operations, finances, and infrastructure. They were perfect complements. At home, they cooked dinner together, traveled to exotic locations, hosted game nights with friends. They had decided together not to have children. The business was their baby, they joked. You know what we should think about? Derek had said one evening 2 months before the incident, as they sat in their home office reviewing quarterly reports. Succession planning. Estate planning. We've built something substantial here, Simone. We should make sure it's protected. Simone had been only half paying attention, her mind on a problematic client account. Sure. That's smart. Can you set up a meeting with our attorney? Already done. Patricia Montgomery is coming by the office next week. She'll bring the papers for us to review. You're the best. Simone had kissed his cheek, not noticing the way his smile didn't quite reach his eyes. The meeting with Patricia had been routine, or so Simone thought at the time. Derek and Patricia went through various scenarios. What would happen to the company if one of them died? What would happen if they divorced? What made sense for tax purposes? There were forms and documents, and Simone signed what Derek and Patricia recommended, trusting that her husband and her attorney were looking out for her interests. This reorganizes the ownership structure, Patricia had explained, for tax purposes and to streamline operations. It also ensures business continuity regardless of life circumstances. Simone had barely read the documents before signing. She trusted Derek completely. Why wouldn't she? They had built this company together. Around the same time, Derek had hired Gabrielle Pierce as the new accounts manager. Simone had been impressed by Gabrielle's resume and interview. She was sharp, ambitious, and had connections in industries they wanted to expand into. She's exactly what we need, Simone had told Derek. Good find. Looking back now from her hospital bed, Simone realized how carefully Derek had orchestrated everything. The legal documents. The new hire who was young, beautiful, and clearly interested in Derek. The increased business travel Derek suddenly needed to do. The late nights at the office. The phone calls he took in another room. But back then Simone had noticed nothing. She had been too busy running her company, managing clients, planning expansions. She trusted Derek to handle his areas while she handled hers. There had been small moments that should have raised red flags. Finding Derek and Gabrielle having lunch together at a cafe near the office when Derek had told her he was meeting with a vendor. Derek's sudden interest in updating their life insurance policies. His suggestion that Simone should take some time off, maybe a solo vacation to decompress. You work too hard, he had said. When was the last time you relaxed? Simone had laughed it off. I'll relax when I'm dead. The words echoed in her mind now with horrible irony. Derek had apparently taken that as a suggestion. The week before the incident, there had been a company party to celebrate the retail contract. Simone had given a speech thanking everyone, then spent the evening mingling with her team. She noticed Derek and Gabrielle standing close together near the bar, their heads tilted toward each other in intimate conversation, Gabrielle's hand on Derek's arm. But when Simone approached, they stepped apart casually, professionally. Just discussing the new client onboarding process, Gabrielle had said with a bright smile. I've been teaching her your strategies for client retention, Derek had added smoothly. Simone had accepted the explanation without question. Why wouldn't she? Derek was her husband, her business partner, the person she trusted most in the world. The idea that he might be cheating on her, let alone planning to kill her, was so far outside the realm of possibility that her brain couldn't have processed it even if the evidence was obvious. But now, lying in a hospital bed with a broken body and a clear understanding of Derek's true nature, Simone saw all the signs she had missed. The way Derek had positioned himself to inherit everything if she died. The affair he had conducted right under her nose. The documents she had signed without reading carefully. The security camera he had probably disabled himself, since he managed the office building relationship. She had given him everything. Her trust, her company, her life. And he had repaid her by trying to murder her in cold blood. The only question now was why. What had driven Derek to such an extreme? Was it Gabrielle? Was it the money? Was it both? And more importantly, what was she going to do about it? Simone closed her eyes, exhausted from the pain medication and the effort of maintaining her confused invalid act around Derek. But her mind was sharp, cataloging every detail, planning her next moves. Derek thought he had gotten away with attempted murder. He thought she didn't remember. He thought he had convinced everyone it was a tragic accident. He was wrong. On her 5th day in the hospital, when Derek left to handle some urgent business matters at the office, Simone dropped her confused invalid act with Natalie. I need you to do something for me, she said quietly, making sure the door was fully closed. And I need you to be careful about it. Natalie pulled her chair closer to the bed. What do you need? Go to the office. Don't tell Derek you're going. Check on things. See how he's been operating while I've been unconscious. Look at the financial accounts you have access to. Talk to employees but casually. See if anyone knows anything about Derek and Gabrielle. Derek and Gabrielle? Natalie's eyes widened. You think they're having an affair? I think Derek tried to kill me and I need to know why. I need to understand what I'm dealing with before I make any accusations. Can you do this? Of course I can. Natalie's expression hardened. That man is going to pay if he hurt you on purpose. I'll go this afternoon. After Natalie left, Simone had two more visitors. The first was her Aunt Gloria, her mother's sister, who cried over her hospital bed and prayed loudly for her recovery. The second was Derek's mother, Margaret, who brought flowers and made sympathetic noises while barely concealing her disapproval of Simone's apparent carelessness in stepping into traffic. You always were too focused on that phone, Margaret said. Always working. Maybe this is a sign to slow down, appreciate what you have. Simone bit back a sharp response. Margaret had never approved of her career focus. In Margaret's world, women should defer to their husbands and put family first. She had often suggested Simone should let Derek take a more prominent role in the company, maybe even make him CEO. After visiting hours ended and Derek returned from the office with takeout dinner he claimed to have been too tired to eat, Simone watched him carefully. He seemed relaxed, content. He told her about his day handling client meetings, reassuring everyone that the company would continue operating smoothly during her recovery. I told everyone you'll be back in a few months, Derek said. But honestly, Simone, maybe you should consider taking longer. We could hire a CEO to handle day-to-day operations. You could transition to a board advisor role. Step back from my own company? Simone kept her voice neutral with effort. Not step back. Delegate. You've been so stressed lately. Maybe this accident is the universe telling you to prioritize your health. The universe didn't try to kill me, Simone thought. You did. Late that night, after Derek left for home promising to return first thing in the morning, Natalie slipped back into Simone's room. Her face was grim. What did you find? Simone asked immediately. Natalie pulled out her laptop. A lot. None of it good. Derek has been moving money. He opened a new business account 2 months ago that you're not signatory on. He's transferred almost $300,000 from the main operating account into it. Simone's blood ran cold. That's embezzlement. It gets worse. Natalie pulled up more documents. I accessed the employee files. Derek and Gabrielle have been taking business trips together for the past 4 months. Same hotels, overlapping rooms. I also found deleted emails in the company server backup. They've been planning something. The emails are careful, nothing explicitly criminal, but there are references to the timeline, and after transition, and new opportunities. Show me. Natalie turned the laptop screen towards Simone. The emails between Derek and Gabrielle were clearly more than professional. They used pet names. They made references to private moments. And buried in the business jargon were suggestions that seemed ominous in retrospect. From Derek to Gabrielle 2 weeks before the incident. Timeline confirmed. Lawyer says everything is in place. Once transition is complete, we can move forward with the merger as discussed. From Gabrielle to Derek 1 week before, are you sure about this? There's no going back once things are set in motion. Derek's response, it's the only way. We've planned carefully. Trust the process. What merger? Simone asked. I never approved any merger. That's the other thing. Natalie pulled up more documents. Derek has been in negotiations with Bright Sky Digital, that marketing firm in Seattle. They want to acquire Turner Marketing. Derek has been handling the talks without telling you. Simone felt sick. Derek wasn't just having an affair. He was planning to sell her company out from under her. But that didn't explain attempted murder unless. The ownership structure, Simone said suddenly. Those documents I signed with Patricia Montgomery. Natalie, I need you to get Patricia on the phone tomorrow. I need to know exactly what I signed. Already ahead of you. Natalie pulled out her phone. I made copies of everything I could access. I'm taking them to a forensic accountant friend tomorrow. But Simone, there's something else. What? I talked to security at our office building. The camera in the parking garage where you were hit? It didn't malfunction. Derek asked to have it taken offline for maintenance the day before your accident. He signed the work order himself. The pieces clicked into place with horrifying clarity. Derek had disabled the security camera. He had positioned himself to inherit or control the company. He had an affair partner waiting in the wings. And he had tried to kill her because divorce would have split assets, while her death as his wife would give him everything. We need to go to the police, Natalie insisted. Not yet. We need more proof. Right now it's all circumstantial. Derek can explain away the money transfers as business decisions. He can claim the affair is recent, started after my accident when he was vulnerable and seeking comfort. He can say he wanted to surprise me with the merger negotiations. The disabled camera could be explained as coincidence. We need something concrete that proves intent. The neighboring business, Natalie said suddenly. The one next to our building. They have external security cameras. Detective Morrison mentioned them. Maybe they caught footage of the parking garage. Hope flickered in Simone's chest. Can you find out? I'll go first thing in the morning. After Natalie left, Simone lay awake despite the pain medication, her mind racing. Derek thought he had been so clever. He thought she was just another woman blinded by love and trust. He thought he could kill her and take everything she had built. He thought wrong. Patricia Montgomery arrived at the hospital 3 days later with a briefcase full of documents and an expression of professional concern. Simone had been moved to a regular room by then, no longer needing intensive monitoring. Derek was at the office, giving Simone privacy for the meeting she had requested. Mrs. Turner, Patricia said carefully, your friend Natalie mentioned you had questions about the estate planning documents we executed 6 weeks ago. I want to know exactly what I signed, Simone said bluntly. Explain every document to me like I've never seen them before. Patricia set her briefcase on the rolling table and pulled out a thick file. There were 3 main documents. The first was a new operating agreement for Turner Marketing Solutions, restructuring the ownership percentages. The second was an update to your personal will. The third was a spousal property agreement. Start with the operating agreement. Patricia pulled out the document Simone had signed so carelessly 6 weeks ago. As she read through it now with clear eyes, the betrayal took her breath away. You signed over 70% ownership of Turner Marketing Solutions to Derek Turner, Patricia explained, retaining 30% for yourself. The agreement states this was done for tax optimization and to reflect Derek's increased operational responsibilities as COO. 70%. Simone's voice was hollow. I gave him majority ownership of my company. Your company that you built together, Patricia corrected gently. From a legal standpoint, since you're married and he's been COO for 5 years, the courts would view this as a jointly built enterprise regardless of whose name is on the initial paperwork. He manipulated me into signing this. Patricia's expression grew troubled. Mrs. Turner, I have to ask. When we went through these documents, you seemed clear-headed and willing. You signed without any coercion that I witnessed. Are you suggesting? I'm suggesting my husband convinced me to sign over my company under false pretenses, then tried to kill me a few weeks later. Simone watched Patricia's face pale. I assume he paid you well for your assistance? I was paid my normal fee, and I had no knowledge of any criminal intent. Mrs. Turner, if you're making serious accusations, I need to inform you that anything I did was above board legally. Your signature is notarized. You were competent when you signed. The documents are legally binding. Even if obtained through fraud, you would need to prove fraud. That Derek intentionally misrepresented the nature of the documents or their purpose. That's a high legal bar. Simone felt her hope cracking. So even though he tried to kill me for a company I already gave him, I can't undo the transfer? You could file a lawsuit to void the agreement based on fraud and coercion. You would need evidence that Derek knew at the time of signing that he intended to harm you, that he obtained your signature specifically to position himself for your death. Without clear evidence of intent, you're looking at a difficult case. What about the will? Patricia pulled out the second document. You designated Derek as primary beneficiary of your personal estate, which isn't unusual for spouses. You also named him as executor. In the event of your death, he would inherit your 30% of the company plus your personal assets. The total estate is currently valued at approximately $4 million. And the spousal property agreement? That's where it gets more interesting. Patricia found the third document. This agreement specifies that in the event of divorce, all marital assets are divided based on current ownership percentages. Since Derek now owns 70% of the company, he would retain that percentage in a divorce. You would keep your 30% plus half of jointly owned personal property. Simone closed her eyes. Derek had been planning this for months. If she divorced him, he would keep most of her company. If she died, he would inherit everything. Either way, he won. There is one thing, Patricia added carefully. If Derek were convicted of a crime against you, specifically attempted murder or murder, most states have laws preventing killers from profiting from their victims' estates. The ownership transfer might be voidable under those circumstances. But you would need a criminal conviction first. Then that's what I'll get. After Patricia left, Natalie returned with news. Her expression was grim but determined. The business next door is a law firm. They have excellent security cameras covering their parking lot and part of our garage. The footage is stored on a secure server for 90 days. I talked to their office manager, explained you'd been in an accident, and asked if they had footage from that day. And? She said they couldn't release it without a subpoena or police request, but she confirmed it exists. Detective Morrison needs to request it officially as part of an investigation. He closed the investigation. He ruled it an accident. Then you need to give him a reason to reopen it. Natalie pulled out her laptop. I have financial records showing Derek embezzling money. I have emails suggesting he and Gabrielle were planning something. I have proof he disabled the security camera. I have documentation showing he restructured the company ownership right before your accident. That's enough to establish motive and premeditation. Simone took a deep breath. This was it. Once she went to Detective Morrison with this evidence, there was no going back. Derek would know she remembered everything. He would know she was coming for him. He might try to hurt her again or he might run. But she couldn't live like this, pretending and waiting while her would-be killer played the devoted husband. Call Detective Morrison, Simone said. Tell him I remember something about the accident. Tell him I need to speak with him privately without Derek present. Are you sure you're ready for this? I've been ready since the moment Derek tried to kill me. Now I finally have the ammunition to fight back. Detective Morrison arrived within 2 hours. He asked Natalie to wait outside and closed the door before sitting in the chair beside Simone's bed. Mrs. Turner, your friend said you remembered something about the accident? It wasn't an accident. Simone met his eyes steadily. My husband accelerated deliberately toward me. I saw his face clearly before impact. He tried to murder me. Morrison didn't look as surprised as she expected. He pulled out a notebook and clicked his pen. Tell me everything. Simone described the moment of impact, Derek's expression, the way he accelerated instead of braking. Then she detailed everything Natalie had discovered, the embezzlement, the affair, the ownership transfer, the disabled security camera. Morrison took notes steadily. When she finished, he sat back and studied her for a long moment. Mrs. Turner, I'm going to be honest with you. When I investigated your accident, some things bothered me. The severity of your injuries didn't match the described impact speed. Your husband's story was almost too perfect, too detailed. And the malfunctioning security camera was suspicious timing. But without evidence of intent and with consistent witness statements, I had to rule it accidental. And now you've given me motive and possibly premeditation. The ownership transfer followed by attempted murder looks very bad for Mr. Turner. I'll request the footage from the law firm next door, interview employees at your company, and bring in a forensic accountant to examine the financial transfers. If everything you've told me checks out, I'll take this to the DA for an arrest warrant. How long will that take? A few days, maybe a week. Can you maintain your pretense that you don't remember clearly until then? Simone thought about lying next to Derek in their bed, knowing he had tried to kill her. She thought about smiling at him across the breakfast table, letting him think he had won. Every instinct screamed to confront him, to make him face what he had done. But she had learned patience in building her business. She had learned strategy and careful planning. She would use those skills now. Yes, she said firmly. I can pretend a little longer if it means putting him in prison where he belongs. The next week was the hardest of Simone's life. Derek visited every day, brought her flowers and magazines, adjusted her pillows and held her hand. He played the devoted husband so convincingly that Simone almost doubted her own memories. But then she would see a flicker of something cold in his eyes, or catch him checking his phone with a secretive smile, and she would remember the truth. Meanwhile, Detective Morrison was building his case. The law firm next door provided their security footage without requiring a subpoena once Morrison explained it was part of a criminal investigation. The footage was damning. It showed Derek's black SUV entering the parking garage at 6:47 p.m., circling past Simone's parked car 3 times over the next 8 minutes, then positioning itself in the driving lane with a clear view of where she stood. When Simone emerged from her car holding her phone, Derek's vehicle began moving forward slowly, then suddenly accelerated. The footage showed Derek running to Simone's side after the impact, pulling out his phone. But before he called 911, he waited 15 seconds, checking Simone's body, making sure she was severely injured. Only then did he dial emergency services and begin his performance. That footage alone is enough for attempted murder. Morrison told Simone when he visited to show her the evidence. But I wanted to build the strongest possible case. Your friend Natalie provided extensive financial documentation. Derek Turner moved over $300,000 into an account solely in his name. He also took out 2 life insurance policies on you 6 months ago, each for $1 million. Simone's blood ran cold. He was going to make $2 million from my death on top of inheriting the company? That was apparently the plan. The insurance policies are particularly damning because he never told you about them. I confirmed with the insurance company that he forged your signature on the acknowledgement forms. That's fraud. That's another felony charge. I've also interviewed employees at Turner Marketing. Several confirmed that Derek and Gabrielle Pierce have been involved in an inappropriate relationship for at least 5 months. One employee, a woman named Jennifer in accounting, said she overheard Derek and Gabrielle discussing removing obstacles and new beginnings 2 weeks before your accident. Will Jennifer testify? She's willing to. So are 3 other employees who witnessed concerning behavior. I've also brought in a forensic accountant to examine Turner Marketing's financial records. She found evidence that Derek was negotiating to sell the company to Bright Sky Digital for $12 million. He was planning to complete the sale within 60 days of your accident. The pieces clicked together. Derek would kill Simone, inherit her 30% of the company, sell the entire business for $12 million, collect $2 million from insurance policies, and start a new life with Gabrielle. He had probably promised her a share of the money. It was a calculated plan that would have worked perfectly if Simone had died in that parking garage. When are you arresting him? Simone asked. Tomorrow morning. The DA signed the warrant this afternoon. We'll execute it at your office at 9 a.m. I wanted to give you advance notice so you're not shocked when it happens. I won't be shocked. I'll be relieved. Morrison hesitated. Mrs. Turner, I need to warn you about something. When we arrest Derek, he's going to realize you remember everything. He's going to know you're the source of all this information. He'll be denied bail given the attempted murder charge, but I need to make sure you're protected. Is there somewhere safe you can go when you're released from the hospital? My Aunt Gloria has a house outside the city. I can stay with her. Good. I'm also going to recommend a restraining order. And I'd suggest you hire private security for a while, just to be safe. After Morrison left, Simone sat alone in her hospital room trying to process everything. Tomorrow Derek would be arrested. Tomorrow everyone would know the truth. Tomorrow her life would change forever. She called Natalie with the news. Oh, thank God, Natalie breathed. I've been so scared that he would hurt you again. Are you okay? How do you feel about all this? Honestly, I feel vindicated. And terrified. And angry. Derek tried to kill me for money. Not even because he stopped loving me or because we had problems. Just money and a newer model to replace me with. He's going to rot in prison. You're going to take back everything he stole from you and build an empire. That's the plan. Simone looked down at her broken body, still in casts and bandages. But first I have to heal enough to walk again. The next morning, Derek arrived at the hospital at his usual time with coffee and a cheerful expression. Simone had been awake since 5 a.m., too nervous to sleep. She made herself smile when he entered. Morning, baby, Derek said, kissing her forehead. I brought your favorite latte. How are you feeling today? Better. It wasn't a complete lie. Physically, she was improving slowly. Emotionally, she was about to feel much better. When do you think I can go home? Dr. Patterson said maybe another week if your recovery continues well. I've been preparing the house for you. I hired a home health nurse to help during the day when I'm at work. That's thoughtful. Simone watched Derek pull out his phone to check messages. Everything okay at the office? Fine. We secured 2 new clients this week. The team is really stepping up. Derek smiled. We're going to be okay, Simone. The company, us, everything. This accident was scary, but we're going to come through it stronger. Simone wanted to laugh at the irony. Accident. As if he hadn't deliberately tried to kill her. Derek's phone rang. He glanced at the screen and frowned. It's the office. I should take this. Be right back. He stepped into the hallway. Through the partially open door, Simone heard his voice change from warm to alarmed. What? No, I'm at the hospital. What's happening? Detective Morrison is there? For what? Simone felt satisfaction bloom in her chest. They were arresting him at the office just as Morrison had planned. Derek would be cuffed in front of all their employees, in front of Gabrielle, in front of everyone who had believed his lies. Derek rushed back into the room, his face pale. Simone, something's happening at the office. The police are there. They're asking for me. I have to go. What's wrong? I don't know. Jennifer from accounting just called. She said Detective Morrison showed up with a warrant. Derek grabbed his jacket, his hands shaking slightly. I'm sure it's just a misunderstanding. Maybe something about the accident investigation. I'll call you as soon as I know what's happening. Okay. Simone kept her voice neutral. Be careful. Derek kissed her quickly and rushed out. Simone counted to 60, then called Natalie. It's happening, she said simply. I know. I'm at the office. The police just arrived. Derek's on his way. Simone, everyone's gathered in the main workspace. This is going to be very public. Good. I want everyone to know what he did. 30 minutes later, Natalie called back. Her voice was shaking with emotion. They arrested him. Derek walked in and Detective Morrison read him his rights in front of the whole company. Attempted murder, fraud, embezzlement. Derek tried to deny everything, said it was a mistake, that his wife was confused from her head injury. Then Morrison showed him the security footage on a tablet. Simone, I watched Derek's face when he saw himself accelerating toward you. All the color drained out. He knew he was caught. What about Gabrielle? They arrested her too. Conspiracy to commit murder. Turns out those emails Natalie found were enough to charge her as an accomplice. She was crying and screaming that she didn't know Derek would actually hurt you, that she thought it was just talk. Do you believe her? No. She knew exactly what she was getting into. Simone hung up and lay back against her pillows. It was done. Derek was in custody. The truth was out. Now came the hard part, rebuilding her life from the ruins of Derek's betrayal. Derek Turner sat in the county jail awaiting arraignment, and Simone felt no sympathy whatsoever. The news of his arrest had spread through their social circle and business community like wildfire. Simone's phone rang constantly with calls from friends, clients, and even reporters wanting her story. She ignored most of them, focusing on her physical recovery while her legal team handled the fallout. Patricia Montgomery, the attorney who had helped Derek restructure the company ownership, reached out through Natalie to apologize and offer her assistance. I had no idea what he was planning, Patricia insisted. If I had known, I would never have helped him. I'm horrified. Simone met with Patricia once she was mobile enough for visitors to meet in the hospital conference room rather than her bedroom. I need to void the ownership transfer, Simone said bluntly. And I need to do it before Derek tries to sell his shares to fund his defense or as retaliation. Patricia nodded. I've already filed a motion to freeze all company assets pending the criminal trial's outcome. The court granted it based on the fraud evidence. Derek can't sell, transfer, or leverage his shares until this is resolved. I've also filed a separate civil suit to void the ownership transfer based on fraud, forgery of insurance documents, and his criminal intent at the time you signed. What are our chances? Excellent. The insurance fraud alone proves Derek was intentionally deceiving you at the time of the ownership transfer. Add in the attempted murder charge and the timeline of events, and we can demonstrate clear fraudulent intent. I expect the civil court will rule in your favor within 3 months. And in the meantime? In the meantime, you maintain operational control as the company's founder and CEO. I've prepared documents removing Derek from all company accounts and decision-making authority. He's effectively suspended pending the criminal trial outcome. The arraignment was scheduled for 2 weeks after Derek's arrest. Simone couldn't attend in person. She was still in a wheelchair and barely mobile, but Morrison arranged for her to watch via video link from the hospital. Derek appeared in an orange jumpsuit, his usual confidence gone. He looked thin and exhausted with dark circles under his eyes. His attorney, a slick defense lawyer named Robert Chin, I can't use Chin. His attorney, Robert Phillips, stood beside him arguing for bail. Your Honor, my client is a respected businessman with deep ties to this community. He has no prior criminal record. He's not a flight risk. His wife is recovering well from her injuries and there's no ongoing danger. The prosecutor, a sharp woman named Amanda Rodriguez, stood to respond. Your Honor, the defendant attempted to murder his wife in cold blood for financial gain. He disabled security cameras, forged insurance documents, and embezzled hundreds of thousands of dollars from their jointly owned business. He has $2 million in life insurance policies he fraudulently obtained on the victim. This wasn't a crime of passion. It was premeditated, calculated murder for profit. He poses an extreme danger to Mrs. Turner. The state requests he be held without bail. The judge, a stern older man named Harold Walsh, reviewed the case file silently before speaking. Mr. Turner, the evidence against you is substantial. Security footage clearly shows your vehicle accelerating toward the victim. Financial records establish motive. Witness testimony supports premeditation. Given the severity of the charges and the danger you pose to the victim, bail is denied. You will remain in county custody until trial. Derek's face crumpled. He looked toward the camera, toward where he knew Simone was watching, and for just a moment his mask fell completely. The hatred in his eyes was chilling. You'll regret this, Derek mouthed silently. Simone felt no fear. Only cold satisfaction. Gabrielle Pierce's arraignment followed immediately after. She looked worse than Derek, her usual polished appearance replaced by smeared makeup and a wrinkled jail uniform. Her attorney tried to argue that Gabrielle was merely Derek's mistress, unaware of his criminal plans. My client engaged in an inappropriate relationship with a married man, which she deeply regrets. But she had no knowledge of Mr. Turner's intentions toward his wife. The emails referenced in the charges are being taken out of context. Miss Pierce never agreed to participate in murder or fraud. Amanda Rodriguez wasn't buying it. Your Honor, the defendant and Mr. Turner exchanged over 200 emails discussing their plans for, after the transition. They took business trips together funded with embezzled money. Miss Pierce met with executives at Bright Sky Digital to discuss the merger Mr. Turner was negotiating without his wife's knowledge. She was integral to the planning and stood to benefit financially from Mrs. Turner's death. This wasn't an unknowing affair partner. This was a co-conspirator. Gabrielle's bail was set at $500,000, which she couldn't meet. She would also remain in jail until trial. After the arraignments, Detective Morrison visited Simone at the hospital. How are you holding up? He asked. Better than Derek and Gabrielle. Simone managed a small smile. Thank you for believing me. For investigating thoroughly. It's my job. But I'll admit, when you first told me your husband tried to kill you, I was skeptical. Domestic violence cases are tricky because emotions run high and memories can be unreliable. But the evidence you and your friend gathered was solid. You did most of the detective work yourself. I had strong motivation. Morrison pulled out his notebook. I wanted to update you on the investigation. We've expanded our scope. The forensic accountant found evidence that Derek has been embezzling from the company for over 18 months, not just 6 months. The total is closer to $700,000. He funneled it through fake vendor accounts and inflated expense reports. Simone's fury blazed hotter. He stole from me for a year and a half while planning to kill me? It looks that way. We've also discovered he's been planning this for longer than we initially thought. Derek contacted the insurance company about policies on you 8 months ago. He researched divorce lawyers and asset division laws. He's had tabs open on his browser for months about how to disable security cameras and stage accidents. Premeditation. Extensive premeditation. The DA is confident we can get a conviction on all charges. Derek is looking at 15 to 25 years for attempted murder alone, plus additional time for fraud, embezzlement, and insurance fraud. And Gabrielle? She's attempting to negotiate a plea deal, offering to testify against Derek in exchange for a reduced sentence. The DA is considering it because Gabrielle's testimony would strengthen our case. She can detail Derek's plans from his own words, establish the affair timeline, and confirm his motive. Simone thought about Gabrielle, young and ambitious, who had helped Derek plan her murder. Part of her wanted Gabrielle to serve serious time. Another part just wanted this entire nightmare to be over. Whatever gets Derek the longest sentence, Simone said finally. That's what I want. The trial was set for 6 months away. In the meantime, Simone focused on healing. She spent 3 more weeks in the hospital before being released to her Aunt Gloria's house outside the city. Physical therapy was grueling. Learning to walk again with a fractured pelvis was excruciating. But Simone pushed through the pain with the same determination that had built her company. She also had work to do. Turner Marketing Solutions needed its founder back. From her aunt's house, Simone began reasserting control. She video called into meetings, reviewed accounts, met with clients via Zoom. She promoted Natalie to COO, filling the role Derek had vacated. I don't have Derek's operational experience, Natalie protested. No, but you have integrity. You have loyalty. You'd never try to kill me and steal my company. That's worth more than experience. The company rallied behind Simone. Employees who had wondered about her lengthy absence learned the truth and were horrified. Several came forward with additional information about Derek's suspicious behavior. The accounting department found more evidence of embezzlement. The sales team revealed Derek had been making deals that favored Bright Sky Digital in preparation for the merger. Simone fired everyone who had been loyal to Derek. She restructured the company culture around transparency and ethical practices. She personally called every client to explain the situation and reassure them that Turner Marketing was stronger than ever. "You survived an attempted murder and you're back running the company 2 months later?" One client marveled. "That's the kind of resilience we want in our marketing partner." Business actually grew. Clients appreciated Simone's strength. The story of her survival inspired people. Articles appeared in business magazines about her comeback. Turner Marketing's revenue increased 30% in 3 months. Derek's lawyer tried to use this against him, claiming Simone couldn't have been that traumatized if she was running a successful company. Amanda Rodriguez shut that down fast. Mrs. Turner's strength and resilience don't diminish the severity of her husband's crime. She survived despite his attempt to murder her. Her success is evidence of her character, not evidence of his innocence. As the trial date approached, Simone felt ready. She had healed physically. She had rebuilt her company. She had processed the betrayal enough to face Derek in court without falling apart. She was ready for justice. 6 months after the parking garage, Simone Turner walked into the courthouse without assistance. She still had a slight limp that would probably never completely disappear, and standing for long periods caused pain in her pelvis, but she was alive and mobile and ready to testify. The trial lasted 3 weeks. Simone attended every day, sitting in the front row with Natalie beside her. She watched Derek avoid eye contact, watched Gabrielle cry strategically for the jury, watched the prosecutors methodically build their case. The security footage was played multiple times. Each viewing showed the same horrifying truth: Derek's vehicle deliberately accelerating toward his unsuspecting wife. Several jurors visibly reacted, their faces showing disgust and horror. Derek's defense was weak. Robert Phillips tried to argue that Derek had been reaching for his coffee cup and accidentally pressed the accelerator. He claimed the ownership transfer was legitimate tax planning. He insisted the affair with Gabrielle was wrong but not criminal. He suggested Simone's memory was impaired by her head injury and medication. Then Simone took the stand. Amanda Rodriguez led her through her testimony carefully. Simone described seeing Derek's face clearly before impact, the cold calculation in his eyes, the way he accelerated instead of braking. She detailed the years of trust, the business they built together, the documents she signed without reading because she never imagined her husband would betray her. "Mrs. Turner," Amanda asked, "before the incident in the parking garage, did you have any indication that your husband wanted to harm you?" "No. I trusted him completely. He was my husband, my business partner, my best friend. I gave him access to everything because I never imagined he would use it against me." "When you signed the documents transferring ownership of Turner Marketing, did you understand you were giving your husband majority control of your company?" "No. He presented it as tax planning and estate organization. I didn't read the documents carefully because I trusted him. Looking back, I realize he manipulated me into signing away my life's work so he could kill me and take everything." During cross-examination, Robert Phillips tried to make her seem vindictive. "Mrs. Turner, isn't it true that you've profited from your husband's arrest? Your company's revenue has increased significantly. You've received substantial media attention. Some might say you have motivation to exaggerate what happened." Simone met his eyes steadily. "My husband tried to kill me. I have medical records documenting my injuries. I have security footage showing the attempted murder. I have financial records proving his embezzlement and fraud. These are facts, not exaggerations. And yes, my company is doing well because I worked incredibly hard to rebuild it while recovering from broken bones and internal bleeding. Derek didn't just try to take my life. He tried to destroy everything I built. The fact that I survived and succeeded despite his attempts doesn't make his crimes less serious." The jury seemed moved by her testimony. Several jurors nodded, appearing to empathize with her ordeal. Gabrielle Pierce testified next as part of her plea agreement. She admitted to the affair and to helping Derek plan the business merger. But she claimed Derek had never told her about the attempted murder plan. "He told me Simone would agree to the merger eventually," Gabrielle said tearfully. "He said she was just stressed and once she took some time off, she'd see it was the best decision for everyone. I never knew he was planning to hurt her. Never." Amanda Rodriguez tore into that claim during questioning. "Ms. Pierce, you sent an email to Mr. Turner 1 week before he attempted to murder his wife. In that email you wrote, 'Are you sure about this? There's no going back once things are set in motion.' What were you referring to?" "The merger. I was asking if he was sure about the merger. Not about murdering his wife? No. I would never go along with murder. Yet you benefited from the embezzled money. You took luxury trips with Mr. Turner funded by money stolen from Mrs. Turner's company. You participated in meetings about selling a company that wasn't yours to sell. You were intimately involved in every aspect of Mr. Turner's plan except the actual murder attempt, which you claimed to know nothing about. How convenient. Gabrielle's testimony was unconvincing. The jury looked skeptical. Derek chose not to testify, which Amanda Rodriguez pointed out in her closing argument was essentially an admission of guilt. She summarized the evidence: the video footage, the financial records, the disabled security camera, the insurance fraud, the affair, the embezzlement, the ownership transfer. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, Derek Turner is guilty of the most calculating crime imaginable. He married Simone Turner. He helped build her company. She trusted him with everything. And he repaid that trust by systematically stripping away everything she had: her money, her business, her security, before attempting to strip away her life. He disabled security cameras. He forged insurance documents. He embezzled hundreds of thousands of dollars. He manipulated his wife into signing away her company. And then he tried to murder her in cold blood for financial gain. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't a crime of passion. This was premeditated attempted murder for money. Derek Turner deserves the maximum sentence. The jury deliberated for 7 hours. When they returned, their verdict was unanimous. Guilty on all counts. Simone felt tears streaming down her face, but they were tears of relief, not sadness. Derek was convicted. He would go to prison. He would never hurt her again. Sentencing came 2 weeks later. Derek received 15 years for attempted murder, 5 years for fraud, 3 years for embezzlement, and 2 years for insurance fraud, with the sentences running consecutively. 25 years total. With good behavior, he might be released in 18 years when he would be 62 years old. Gabrielle received 5 years for conspiracy and fraud as part of her plea deal. She would serve 3.5 with good behavior. At sentencing, the judge allowed Simone to give a victim impact statement. She stood at the podium, facing Derek directly for the first time since the trial began. Derek, you tried to destroy me. You tried to take my life, my company, my independence. You spent months planning how to murder me and profit from my death. You disabled cameras, forged documents, and embezzled money. You looked me in the eye and told me you loved me while planning my funeral. Derek stared at the table in front of him, refusing to meet her gaze. But you failed, Simone continued, her voice growing stronger. I survived. And not only did I survive, I thrived. My company is more successful than ever. I've helped other women escape domestic violence situations through my foundation. I've rebuilt my life into something better than what you tried to destroy. You spent months planning to take everything from me, but in the end, I took everything from you. Your freedom. Your reputation. Your future. You will spend the next 2 decades in prison while I live the life you tried to steal. Finally, Derek looked up. The hatred in his eyes was profound, but Simone felt no fear. Only pity. I hope you use your time in prison to reflect on what you did and why, Simone said. I hope you find whatever redemption is possible for someone who tried to murder his wife for money. But whether you do or not is no longer my concern. You're no longer part of my life. You're just a criminal serving a well-deserved sentence. Goodbye, Derek. She turned and walked away, her slight limp barely noticeable, her head held high. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed with questions. Simone gave a brief statement. Justice has been served. Derek Turner will spend the next 25 years in prison for his crimes against me. I'm grateful to Detective Morrison, the prosecutor's office, and everyone who supported me through this ordeal. Now I'm focused on moving forward with my life and my business. Thank you. Natalie drove her back to her new apartment. She had sold the house she shared with Derek and found a bright, modern condo in a different part of the city. As they drove through evening traffic, Simone felt lighter than she had in months. How are you feeling? Natalie asked. Free, Simone said simply. For the first time since the parking garage, I feel completely free. That evening, Simone had dinner with her physical therapist, Jordan Hayes, who had become a good friend during her recovery. He had been at the trial today, sitting in the back row offering moral support. You were amazing on the stand, Jordan said over Thai food at a restaurant near Simone's apartment. Strong and dignified. I was so proud of you. Thank you for being there. It helped knowing I had people who cared in the courtroom. Jordan hesitated, then said carefully, Simone, I know the timing might not be right, and if I'm overstepping just tell me. But I'd like to take you to dinner sometime. A real dinner, not just two friends grabbing food. A date. Simone looked at Jordan across the table. He was handsome in an understated way, with warm eyes and an easy smile. He had been kind to her during her physical therapy without ever making her feel weak or pitted. He had attended her trial without being asked. He treated her like a person, not a victim. "I'd like that," Simone said. "But I need to take things slowly. I'm not ready to jump into anything serious." "Slow is good. I'm patient. We can take as much time as you need." They smiled at each other, and Simone felt the tiniest spark of hope for the future. She had survived attempted murder. She had rebuilt her company. She had put her would-be killer in prison. Now maybe she could learn to trust again. Not blindly like before, but carefully, with eyes open and boundaries clear. She was ready for the next chapter of her life. 1 year after the parking garage incident, Simone Turner stood in front of the mirror in her bedroom and barely recognized herself. Not because she looked worse. If anything, she looked better than she had before Derek's betrayal. But she was fundamentally different. Stronger. Wiser. Less trusting but more confident. The physical scars had faded. The limp was barely noticeable unless she was very tired. The emotional scars were still healing, but therapy had helped. She saw a counselor twice a week who specialized in trauma recovery and domestic violence. The work was difficult but necessary. "You can't build a healthy future on an unhealed foundation," her therapist had told her. "You need to process what happened, understand why you missed the red flags, and learn to trust your instincts again." Turner Marketing Solutions had flourished beyond Simone's expectations. With Derek's embezzled money recovered and the company fully under her control again, she had expanded aggressively. 3 new offices in Los Angeles, Austin, and Miami. 50 employees instead of 25. Annual revenue projected to hit $15 million by year-end. Natalie had proven herself as an excellent CEO. She brought integrity and efficiency to operations without Derek's ruthless ambition or hidden agendas. The company culture had transformed into something positive, transparent, ethical, and focused on both profit and employee well-being. "I never knew it could be this good," one employee told Simone at the company's 1-year anniversary party. "When Derek was here, everything felt cutthroat and secretive. Now it feels like we're building something that matters." Simone had also launched the Turner Foundation for Domestic Violence Prevention. The foundation provided financial assistance to women leaving abusive situations, offered job training and placement services, and funded legal aid for divorce and restraining order proceedings. In its first year, the foundation had helped 22 women escape dangerous relationships and rebuild their lives. "You're saving people the way you saved yourself," the foundation's director told Simone. "These women look at your story and realize they can survive too." Simone attended foundation events regularly, sharing her story and encouraging survivors. It was difficult sometimes reliving the trauma, but seeing the hope in other women's eyes made it worthwhile. Her personal life had also evolved. She and Jordan had been dating for 3 months now, taking things slowly as promised. He ran a youth sports foundation that provided athletic opportunities to underprivileged children. They bonded over their shared commitment to helping others and their understanding of what it meant to rebuild after setbacks. Jordan had been a professional basketball player before a career-ending knee injury forced his retirement at 28. He understood physical recovery and the psychological challenge of reconstructing your identity after losing something central to your life. "People think trauma ends when the bad thing stops happening," Jordan said during one of their long conversations over coffee. "But that's when the real work begins. You have to figure out who you are after trauma changes you." He never pitted Simone. He admired her strength but didn't treat her like she was fragile. He respected her need for independence and didn't try to rush intimacy. When she woke up from nightmares about the parking garage, he held her without asking questions, letting her talk if she wanted to or stay silent if she didn't. "I'm still figuring out how to trust again," Simone admitted one evening when they were cooking dinner together in her apartment. "Part of me is terrified I'll miss red flags again." "You won't," Jordan said confidently. "You missed them before because you were young and in love and had no reason to believe Derek would hurt you. Now you know what betrayal looks like. You know what to watch for. You won't make the same mistake twice." "How can you be so sure?" "Because you're one of the smartest, most observant people I've ever met. And because you do the work, the therapy, the self-reflection, the honesty about your fears. People who do that work don't repeat the same patterns." Simone wanted to believe him. Most days she did. The 1-year anniversary of the parking garage incident fell on a Tuesday. Simone took the day off work and drove to the parking garage where Derek had tried to kill her. She hadn't been back since that night. The space looked ordinary in daylight. Just concrete pillars and painted lines and cars going about their business. Nothing sinister or memorable. But Simone could see the exact spot where she had stood, where Derek's SUV had hit her, where her body had crumpled against the pillar. She stood there for a long time, remembering the pain and terror. Remembering Derek's face through the windshield. Remembering the sound of her own bones breaking. Then she got back in her car and drove away. That place didn't define her anymore. Derek didn't define her. The trauma was part of her story, but it wasn't the whole story. That evening, Jordan took her to their favorite restaurant to celebrate her survival. Simone wore a red dress that made her feel powerful and beautiful. She laughed at Jordan's jokes and held his hand across the table and felt genuinely happy. "I have something for you," Jordan said when dessert arrived. He pulled out a small box, and Simone's heart seized with panic before she realized it was too big for a ring. "Don't worry," he added quickly, reading her expression. "We agreed on slow. This is something else." Inside the box was a delicate silver bracelet engraved with words, "She survived and created something beautiful." Simone's eyes filled with tears. "Jordan, this is perfect. You inspire me," he said simply. "What you've built from the ruins of Derek's betrayal, the company, the foundation, yourself, it's all beautiful. I wanted you to have a reminder of that on hard days." Simone fastened the bracelet on her wrist. It caught the light, glinting silver and strong. Later that night, as they walked along the waterfront near her apartment, Jordan stopped and turned to face her. "I know we're taking things slow," he said, "and I know you need time to heal completely. But I want you to know that I'm serious about this. About us. I'm not going anywhere. Whenever you're ready for more, I'll be here." Simone looked up at him, this good man who had been patient and kind and steady. "I think I might be falling in love with you," she admitted. "That terrifies me." "Because of Derek?" "Because I trusted Derek completely and he betrayed me in the worst possible way. How do I trust anyone again after that?" Jordan took both her hands. "You don't trust blindly. You trust carefully, with boundaries and communication. You watch actions instead of just believing words. You maintain your independence and don't lose yourself in the relationship. And you trust yourself most of all, trust that you'll recognize danger this time. That's asking a lot. You're worth a lot." They kissed then, gentle and sweet, and Simone felt the last pieces of ice around her heart beginning to thaw. She wasn't completely healed yet. She might never be completely healed. But she was getting there. One step at a time. One day at a time. One moment of trust at a time. She was becoming whole again, but differently than before. Stronger. Wiser. More aware of her own strength and worth. Derek had tried to destroy her, but instead he had forged her into something unbreakable. And that, Simone thought as she walked hand in hand with Jordan along the waterfront, was the best revenge of all. 2 years after Derek Turner tried to murder his wife, Simone Turner stood on stage at the Regional Business Leadership Awards accepting recognition as Entrepreneur of the Year. She wore a tailored navy suit that exuded confidence and power. Her slight limp was imperceptible in her carefully chosen heels. She looked like exactly what she was, a woman who had survived the worst and emerged victorious. "Thank you for this incredible honor," Simone said into the microphone, smiling at the crowd of business leaders and press filling the hotel ballroom. 2 years ago, I was lying in a hospital bed wondering if I would ever walk again. My husband had tried to kill me. My company was in chaos. Everything I had built over a decade was threatened. The room was silent, everyone hanging on her words. Simone's story had become legend in the local business community, the woman who survived attempted murder and turned her trauma into unprecedented success. But I refused to let one person's cruelty define my future. I chose to rebuild. I chose to fight. And with the support of an incredible team and community, Turner Marketing Solutions didn't just survive, we thrived. We've tripled our revenue in 2 years. We've expanded to 5 cities. We employ 75 people and serve over 200 clients nationwide. Applause filled the room. Simone waited for it to die down before continuing. "This award doesn't just honor me. It honors every person who refused to give up on me when things looked impossible. It honors the survivors who find the courage to rebuild after trauma. It honors the belief that we are stronger than what tries to break us. Thank you." More applause as Simone left the stage. Backstage, Natalie wrapped her in a hug. "You killed it," Natalie said. "That speech was perfect. Thanks to your editing." Simone laughed. "My first draft was way too angry and vindictive." Well, the anger was justified. But the final version was better. Jordan appeared with flowers, kissing Simone's cheek. My brilliant fiancé. Simone looked down at the elegant diamond ring on her finger, still getting used to its presence. Jordan had proposed 3 months ago during a weekend trip to the mountains. She had said yes without hesitation, no longer afraid of commitment, trusting that this relationship was fundamentally different from her marriage to Derek. Ready for the reception? Jordan asked. Ready for anything, Simone replied. The reception was held in the ballroom's adjoining space with drinks, hors d'oeuvres, and networking opportunities. Simone worked the room like the confident business leader she had become, connecting with potential clients and partners while also sharing encouraging words with other female entrepreneurs. How did you do it? A young woman asked her quietly. How did you bounce back from something so devastating? Simone thought about it carefully before answering. I gave myself permission to grieve what I lost. I did the therapy work to process trauma. I leaned on people who cared about me. But most importantly, I refused to see myself as just a victim. I was victimized, yes, but that didn't define me. I defined myself by how I responded to adversity, not by what Derek did to me. I'm leaving an abusive marriage, the woman whispered. Everyone tells me I should forgive him, give him another chance. But I'm scared he'll hurt me worse next time. Simone took the woman's hand. Trust your instincts. If you feel unsafe, you probably are unsafe. Leaving is the bravest thing you can do. Here. She pulled out a business card for the Turner Foundation. Call this number tomorrow. They can help with legal assistance, safe housing, and job placement. You don't have to do this alone. The woman's eyes filled with tears. Thank you. Thank yourself for having the courage to leave. That's the hardest part. Later that evening, back at the home she now shared with Jordan, a beautiful house in the suburbs with a yard for the dog they were planning to adopt, Simone reflected on how far she had come. Turner Marketing Solutions was worth triple what it had been worth under Derek's partial ownership. The company culture was positive and ethical. Employees stayed long-term because they felt valued. Clients trusted Simone's integrity. The business was built on a foundation of honesty instead of lies. The Turner Foundation had helped 53 women in 2 years, providing over $200,000 in direct assistance and countless hours of legal aid and job training. 3 of those women now worked for Turner Marketing. 2 had started their own businesses with microloans from the foundation. Simone's personal life was fulfilling in ways she never experienced with Derek. Jordan was her equal partner, not her superior or subordinate. They made decisions together. They communicated openly. They maintained separate interests and identities while building a shared life. Jordan never tried to control her or diminish her success. He celebrated her victories as his own. Do you ever regret not pursuing a harsher sentence for Derek? Jordan asked one evening when they were discussing the upcoming wedding. He got 25 years, but with good behavior he could be out in 18. Simone thought about it. Derek was 52 years old now, sitting in a medium-security prison, his reputation destroyed, his freedom gone, his elaborate plans turned to ashes. By the time he was released, he would be elderly with a felony record that would make rebuilding difficult. No, she said finally. Derek didn't just lose 18 or 25 years. He lost everything that mattered to him: power, money, status, freedom, the woman he betrayed me for. Every day he spends in prison, he knows that I'm out here thriving without him. That's a better punishment than any judge could impose. He tried to take everything from you and you took everything from him instead. Exactly. That's justice. One Saturday afternoon, Simone did something she had been avoiding for 2 years. She visited a medium-security women's prison to speak to a group about recognizing danger signs in relationships. It was part of the Foundation's outreach program. As she walked through the prison corridors, Simone couldn't help thinking that Gabrielle Pierce was somewhere in a facility like this, serving her reduced sentence. Gabrielle would be released in another 1.5 years. She had sent Simone a letter 6 months ago, apologizing profusely and begging forgiveness. Simone had torn the letter up without responding. Gabrielle wasn't entitled to her forgiveness. The apology was for Gabrielle's benefit, not Simone's. The women's group was small, maybe 12 women of various ages and backgrounds. Simone shared her story honestly: the betrayal, the attempted murder, the long recovery, the difficulty of rebuilding trust. I'm not going to tell you that forgiveness is necessary for healing, Simone said. I haven't forgiven Derek. I probably never will. He doesn't deserve my forgiveness. But I have let go of the anger that was poisoning my life. There's a difference between forgiveness and release. You can release someone from taking up space in your thoughts without forgiving what they did. How do you know if someone is going to hurt you? One woman asked. You watch their actions, not their words. You notice inconsistencies. You trust your gut when something feels wrong. You maintain your independence and don't let anyone isolate you from friends and family. You keep your own money, your own identity, your own power. And you leave at the first sign of abuse because it always gets worse, never better. My husband used to say if I left he'd kill me, another woman said quietly. Then you plan carefully. You get help from professionals who understand domestic violence. You document everything. You leave when he's not around. You go somewhere he can't find you. And you remember that staying with someone who threatens to kill you is just as dangerous as leaving. At least if you leave, you have a chance. The group session ran over time because the women had so many questions. Simone stayed answering each one, remembering what it was like to feel trapped and hopeless. As she left the prison that afternoon, Simone felt grateful for her freedom, her success, her carefully rebuilt life. She had survived attempted murder and turned her trauma into purpose. She had built a business empire and a foundation that helped others. She was engaged to a good man who respected and supported her. She was happy. That evening was the Turner Foundation's annual gala, the biggest fundraiser of the year. Simone wore a stunning black gown and worked the room with practiced ease, thanking donors and sharing impact stories. The event raised $350,000, enough to help dozens more women escape violence and rebuild their lives. During her speech, Simone looked out at the crowd of supporters and felt overwhelming gratitude. 2 years ago, I was a victim of attempted murder. Today, I'm the CEO of a thriving company and the founder of a foundation that saves lives. That transformation didn't happen because I'm special or unusually strong. It happened because I refused to let someone else's cruelty become my destiny. It happened because I chose to turn pain into purpose. She paused, letting her words sink in. Every woman we help through this foundation makes that same choice. She chooses survival over surrender. She chooses her future over her past. She chooses herself. Your donations tonight don't just provide money. They provide hope. They provide the message that escape is possible, that healing is real, that life after trauma can be beautiful. Thank you for believing in our mission and in these women's potential. Standing ovation. Tears in multiple eyes. Simone felt proud of what she had built from the ruins of Derek's betrayal. Later, dancing with Jordan while the band played, Simone thought about the parking garage where this all began. That moment of impact had shattered her old life completely. But from the broken pieces, she had built something better, stronger, more meaningful. What are you thinking about? Jordan asked, noticing her distant expression. I'm thinking that Derek tried to kill me and instead he gave me a second chance at life. He forced me to rebuild and I rebuilt better than before. He tried to take everything and I ended up with more than I ever had when I was with him. Ironic. Karmic. Simone smiled up at her fiancé. He's in prison for 25 years while I'm out here living my best life. That's real justice. You're incredible, you know that? I'm a survivor. And I'm done letting what Derek did define me. I'm defined by what I do now, by the business I run, the foundation I built, the life I'm creating with you. Derek is just a criminal who made a terrible choice and faces consequences. He doesn't matter anymore. And she meant it. Derek Turner was her past. Her future was standing in front of her, holding her close, promising forever. Her future was the company with her name on it, the foundation that bore her legacy, the women she helped escape their own directs. She had survived attempted murder and built an empire from the ashes of betrayal. She had turned pain into purpose and trauma into triumph. She had won in every way that mattered. And as Simone danced with Jordan under the glittering lights of the gala, surrounded by people who loved and supported her, she knew with absolute certainty that she had moved beyond survival into something more profound. She was thriving. She was free. She was home. And that, finally, was enough.